It's a solemn day. Why? Because why? Because of what happened 4 years ago? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Get over yourselves. And the fact that you could compare January 6th, not to even 9/11, but to the Holocaust was insane. Hello, Bell. Welcome back.
It drives me crazy the way they act like the most armed segment of our country's population showed up to overthrow the government with some knives, a couple handguns, and some mace.
Yeah.
And then grabbed themselves some flagpoles to overthrow our government, which you can't do because they have F-16s, according to Joe.
Yeah. And souvenirs. They got souvenirs on the way. Like we got breakfast, right? Because that's what you do right before. It's like, let's go to the Waffle House, we'll get breakfast. And afterwards, we'll get some souvenirs, watch Trump's speech, and we'll storm the castle just like he wants us to. So.
Even after he said, march peacefully.
Yes. That's always left out. Again, and you're in charge of your own self, but just the insanity of it all. Speaking of insanity, today, people woke up and they're like, who's this Mark Zuckerberg character with long hair? What's he talking about?
Hey, everyone.
Hi, Mark.
I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there.
And I think we all recognize what legitimately bad stuff is, right? The violence. I don't need to see a snuff film. I don't, there's enough of that. There's a ton of stuff. The children trafficking, all of that stuff. We recognize that. But we're talking about things like Hunter Biden's laptop. For the right, that's what's important to them.
I saw a story about Zuckerberg, and this has been a couple years now, but he was talking about, or actually it was about Facebook. It wasn't Zuckerberg talking to me. They were talking about how they have people that are actually looking at content that has to be deleted. And that it's so intense, that job, with what you have to delete and what you're looking for, that most people don't last more than 4 months because of the hard crap they have to look at.
You're seeing the most horrific things, right? And so there's two kinds of censors. The AI is the censor that the right and we all complain about because, again, I've been suspended on numerous occasions for ridiculous things.
Me too.
Yeah, for ridiculous things.
I thought I saw you at the union meetings.
Yes. I mean, for absolutely ridiculous things where you're just like, are you blanking kidding me? And I was telling Chris, we got suspended one time for a climate change thing that this was put up. It was a New York Times article about something. And it was a picture of Greta Thunberg. How dare you ruin my life? And it was a picture that they took. And it had one of those little Bob Barker microphones in front, like several different microphones, but that one. And it was the black wind, screen that you see on it. And it looked like it covered her nose. I didn't even notice it. Looked like she was Adolf Hitler. How dare you? We got suspended for that. We got this big, we had to fight to get our account back. Actually, I had a friend who worked at Facebook one time, had to help me get that back. It was ridiculous. So look, we understand the bad things that are out there. But yes, there were things that we absolutely should be more than perturbed about.
Terrorism, child exploitation, these are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
Which is good. And people are like, oh, so what does that mean? Like, what are you going to do? What are some of the things we can talk about? Because you never know, right? Like, that was always the thing about Facebook and Twitter at the time before Elon took it over. And Instagram, by the way, Instagram has never been as political as Twitter and Facebook have. Instagram was a lot more influencer, but you never knew what it was going to be about. Like, you never knew why you were getting suspended, the code of conduct, or you went against the rules. What rules? I mean, what you changed the rules. That was the issue people had with this.
We're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
And that's a big deal. Out of touch with mainstream discourse. Translation, we saw the election, and we see the fact that you've got the craziness when it comes to kids and trans, the immigration debate, which is just ridiculous. These are not where the average person is. And that average person is in their 50s, and those people tend to lean to the right. So you want to keep your audience. And alas, you're going to do that. You hope. Now, I don't know. One of the things about, the whole thing with Facebook is, how big is Facebook? Here, not as big as it used to be. Not even close. Still big. Big for business, right? Big for going on there and, hey, I want to buy something. That's decent. When it comes to the average person, rarely are they on Facebook, especially anybody under the age of 30 or 35. On the other side of things, globally, Facebook is still a behemoth. And I think part of this has to do with what's going on in Europe, in particular, what's going on in Britain, which we'll touch on a little bit later, but it is insane. And I'm saying this from a person who lived in Britain for a long time, who thinks of it still at times as my second home. But I do not recognize what it has become. The censorship and the insanity of what is happening over there is terrifying. And I think that has also made him go, whoa, government's way too damn involved. Earlier, Trump Jr. went to Greenland. I've been to a lot of places. I've been to Iceland. I think we stopped at Greenland once, but I don't think we ever got off.
This has got to be the biggest troll I've ever seen the guy do.
Totally.
I mean, he's literally talking about trying to buy another country. His son is in that country right now, which makes it look like there's some kind of negotiations going on. But we're not buying Greenland, people. It ain't going to happen.
And Greenland is pissed because they've got the argument with Denmark. And so you've got this battle going on, which makes me think of back in the days, the early 80s, of the Falkland Islands and the UK. The Battle of the Great Puffin. So but here's the deal. Trump recognizes he's got to get moving forward. There's no doubt about that. The question is, what kind of bill are you going to be able to get through? How big is it going to be? When is it going to happen? What does it look like? Immigration, obviously top of mind for a lot of people. I did a couple things today for a couple other station stuff. One of the things I talked about was, they kept asking me, what's the priority for immigration? Well, first and foremost, as much as the criminal aliens that we know in custody, that's low-hanging fruit. Get those gone. But the gotaways has to be the most important thing. Who do you squeeze to get the gotaways? 2 million people came into this country that shouldn't have been here, that weren't going to they weren't even trying for asylum. Do I think all 2 million are terrorists? No. But do I think there are a lot of people in there that have serious issues with our country and want to do damage? Absolutely. That's the focus that has to happen first and foremost. But you're also looking at manpower. What do you have manpower-wise? That I don't know. I mean, the border has to be secure. You've got to take care of that first and foremost, but you can do that with some executive orders, getting rid of the CBP app, and a few things like that. But then it's on to the interior, and that's the place that the unknowns, but also the unknowns of how much money are we going to have? How many people are we going to have to actually do this? What places are going to argue and fight with us that we're going to have to go after through the federal purse eventually, and potentially through criminal prosecution for hiding people and aiding and abetting? These are all things. It's not going to be as simple as I've heard a lot of people think it's going to be. It isn't.
The question is whether or not we do the two bills or one bill. And, look, I can live either way. I like the idea of the one big bill, but I can live either way.
One bill, two bills. We'll find out. And the other side of it is, and people don't want to admit this, is who's going to stand up and say, no, this is too much spending, or this is too much this, or this is too much that. Because you're going to have that, even on the Republican side. And with a narrow margin like this, you've got to have everybody, because otherwise you're going to have a situation where nothing will get done. And Trump can't afford that. He's got a little bit more leeway in the Senate, But when it comes to the House, he's got to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But it doesn't mean that everybody's going to roll over. Because you're going to have some people who are going to look at some of this stuff. Who knows what's in whatever's in there? Because, again, we don't know until as we've learned, right? We've all learned this. The details. The devil's in the details. And how many times have we seen something, it was supposed to be this, and then it's 1,500 pages, or it's this, and we've got 12 hours to read it. We need to make sure that what's in there, look, it's real and it's sustainable. I don't want my kids writing any more checks down the road. I have a 6-year-old, and I got to look at her and go, you know what? You're going to pay for a lot of this stuff for a very, very, very long time. Yeah. I hope we understand. We've kicked this can so far down the road that our grandkids are going to be paying stuff back. We've got to get a handle on this.
We need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world.
That is such a troll. You should totally give it up. Hey, you should give me that. You guys ever had a friend like that? Hey, dude, you should give me that. No, you should probably give it. It would look better on me than it does you. You don't need this. You should give it to me. Are you going to eat that? No, you should give it to me. That's Trump. That's so Trump. Think about the average person in Greenland who's going, wait, look at all the people fighting over Denmark and now America.
I can just see him arguing over French fries or something.
Oh, good God.